I am 78 years old, and I spent my entire life thinking I knew everything. I thought my mother was just a simple woman, repetitive, stuck to old advice that no longer served a purpose. But it was only after she left, in the silence that remained, that I finally understood. And by the time I understood, it was already too late to say, "You were right." This isn't just a story about regret. It's a story about time, about love that speaks softly, and about lessons that only make sense once the heart has learned how to feel. If you have living parents, or if you carry the longing for those who have gone, this story is for you. Subscribe to the channel and stay until the end, because perhaps today you will hear what someone tried to teach you your whole life. My mother was never a woman of grand speeches. She didn't quote famous books, she didn't use difficult words, and she didn't raise her voice. Her wisdom lived in small gestures, in the way she swept the yard with calm, in the coffee brewed without haste, in the silence respected within the home. While the world screamed outside, she spoke softly in here. When I was young, I thought all of it was outdated. I saw my friends chasing success, money, and recognition, and my mother seemed to live in another time, where the value of things wasn't measured by speed, but by care. She always said, "Life doesn't need to be rushed to be lived." I would smile, but inside I disagreed. I wanted more, faster, more right now. I didn't realize that Simple House was, in fact, a school. Every repeated routine hid a lesson. Every silence carried a teaching. But I wasn't ready to learn. I wanted to conquer the world, not understand it. Today, looking back, I realize that everything I am started there, in that simple house, with that woman who spoke little, but lived much. My mother repeated the same phrases throughout the years, and perhaps that was the problem. Because they were repeated, I thought they weren't important. Don't answer in the heat of anger. Listen before you judge. Not every battle needs to be won. I heard them, but I didn't listen. In my young mind, advice was for people who were afraid to take risks. I wanted to prove I was different, that I could make my own mistakes, that I knew how to choose my own path. When something went wrong, she didn't say, "I told you so." She simply drew near, in silence, and helped pick up the pieces. That irritated me even more. I wanted arguments. She offered presence. I wanted quick answers. She offered patience. Today, I understand she didn't want to control my life. She just wanted to prepare me for when life decided to be hard on me. But back then, I confused love with interference. I confused care with limitation. And, without realizing it, I began building walls between us. Walls made of pride, of haste, of misplaced silence. The drifting didn't happen all at once. It was slow, disguised, polite. It started with shorter visits, postponed phone calls, quick replies. "I'll call you later. I'll stop by later. I can't right now." And time went by. My mother never complained. She never demanded. She never made a scene. She simply remained there, available, as if she knew that one day I would need her again. I thought independence meant no longer needing my mother. Today I know that maturity is recognizing when we still do. She was getting older, and I didn't see it. She was getting more fragile, and I didn't notice. Because when we are too busy living, we forget to observe the ones who gave us life. I convinced myself there would always be time. Time to talk. Time to listen. Time to make things right. The mistake wasn't a lack of love. It was an excess of certainty. The certainty that tomorrow was guaranteed. The last conversations we had were simple. Every day. Nothing I thought worthy of memory. We talked about the weather, about food, about small things. She asked if I was okay. I said yes. She asked if I was happy. I answered quickly, without thinking. If I had known they would be the last, I would have said more. I would have listened more. I would have sat in silence by her side. But nobody warns you when it's the last time. The problem isn't death. It's what we leave unsaid before it comes. The phone rang too early that morning. There was still silence in the street, and the day had barely begun when I heard a voice on the other end trying to be firm but failing. Just a few words were enough for everything around me to lose its meaning. My mother was gone. There was no scream, no immediate crying. There was a profound void, as if time had been interrupted without warning. I sat down, staring at nothing, trying to understand how the world could keep spinning while something so important had ended. On the way to her house, I remembered small things. The way she folded the cloths. The care she took with the plants. The simple phrases I had so often ignored. It all came together, heavy and crushing. When I saw her for the last time, lying there in silence, I realized something cruel. It wasn't just her who had left. The chance to say that I understood had left too. That now it made sense. That I should have listened more. Death doesn't scream. It arrives quietly, final. And it teaches in the hardest way possible that some lessons cannot be postponed. On that day, time stood still for me. And when it started moving again, I was no longer the same. After the funeral, everyone left. The house remained. And I remained with it. I had never realized how silence could be so loud. Every room seemed to hold an invisible presence, as if my mother were still there, observing, waiting. I opened drawers. I found simple objects, old letters, handwritten recipes, photographs yellowed by time. Things I had never stopped to look at closely. All of it had always been there, but I was too busy living to notice. I sat in the chair where she used to sit. For the first time, I understood the weight of that loneliness she never complained about. How many times had she waited for a visit? For a call? For a conversation without haste? The house began to speak to me. Not with words, but with memories. Each object brought a lesson I ignored when she was alive. Silence became a harsh but honest teacher. There, I realized my mother wasn't afraid of being alone. She had accepted it. What she never did was stop loving. And that hurt me more than any harsh word ever could. As the days passed, I began to remember the phrases my mother used to repeat. The very ones I thought were too simple, too obvious. Now, each one seemed loaded with meaning. Have patience. Don't return evil for evil. Love sustains what pride destroys. It was as if she had foreseen everything. As if she knew exactly what pains I would face throughout my life. She didn't speak just to speak. She spoke because she had lived. Because she had felt. Because she had learned. I realized that many of my falls could have been lighter if I had listened. Many fights could have been avoided. Many silences filled. But youth believes that experience is a thing of the past. Only later do we understand that it is a map. And I ignored the map. My mother didn't want to spare me from living. She wanted to spare me from suffering in vain. This understanding arrived late, but it arrived with force. Today I know that every piece of advice was an attempt to prepare me for a world that isn't always kind. Regret came as a constant shadow. Not to punish me, but to remind me. At first, it hurt. It hurt to think about the lost time, the unspoken words, the postponed hugs. But slowly, I understood that regret can also teach. It shows where we went wrong, so that we don't repeat it. It reveals the value of things that once seemed guaranteed. I learned that presence is more important than haste. That listening is more valuable than arguing. That love doesn't need grand gestures, just consistency. My mother never demanded anything from me. Even so, she left me with an enormous responsibility. To live better than I lived before I understood her. To be more patient. More attentive. More human. regret turned into commitment. A silent commitment to honor what she tried to teach me my whole life. Today, I realize I carry my mother in simple actions. In the way I speak to my children. In the way I listen without interrupting. In the patience I used to lack. When life gets tight, I remember her calm. When I feel anger, I remember her silence. When I think of giving up, I remember the quiet strength with which she faced everything. She didn't leave assets or riches. She left values. She left examples. She left a way of living that only now I understand as rare. My mother left without knowing how much she transformed me. But perhaps that doesn't matter. A true legacy doesn't need recognition. It simply continues. If you can still hear your mother, listen. Even if it seems repetitive. Even if it seems too simple. Some lessons only seem small because they haven't hurt yet. If you can still visit, go. If you can still call, call. Don't wait for a special day. The special day is now. I waited 78 years to understand. You don't have to wait that long. The love that speaks softly today may be the silence that teaches tomorrow. Don't postpone what can be lived now. Some opportunities don't come back. Some voices fall silent too soon. And when the silence arrives, let it come without regrets. Let it come only with longing and gratitude. This is the greatest lesson my mother left. And now, finally, I have learned it. If this story touched you in some way, do not ignore that feeling. Sometimes, it's not sadness. It's a reminder. A reminder to call. To listen more calmly. To value those who are still here. Write in the comments, what did your mother, or whoever raised you, try to teach you your whole life? Your story might touch someone else who still needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell. Because here we tell stories that don't scream, but they stay. Stories that heal. Stories that awaken. Stories that perhaps arrive in time. And if you can still say, I love you, say it today. Because understanding is important, but loving while there is still time is everything.